us today, haven't they? We've laughed and we've thought and we've puzzled. It's really been fun. Thank you so much. Now, Michael Hyde. Michael is an academic who works with children's literature, children's writing, and we're hoping to do some really exciting things with Michael's help for our children. So, Michael.
Thank you, and thank you so much for inviting me. I feel quite blessed. I read an article recently about multiculturalism in Australia. Very strange. It sounded as though in the middle there was this big pole called Anglo-Saxon, and all the rest of the cultures danced around it. And yet this Anglo-Saxon pole was the main one. Whereas in actual fact, we've never been anything but a country of migrants. I have so many bits and pieces in me, but I'm still considered a skip. I taught 26 years in the western suburbs, and that was the term that the boys and girls used from other countries for the Anglo-Saxon students, skips. I thought it was a pretty good name. There were the wogs, there were the chinks, and there were the skips. To some extent it made me really understand. And when I then slid over, I don't quite know how it happened, but to Victoria University. And I've been a sessional, which is a casual tutor and lecturer in other universities. I, quite frankly, wouldn't teach anywhere else. I look up at my students in creative writing in the first week, and I look at them and I look at them and I look at them, and I say, when you were writing, don't you dare forget your background. Don't you dare forget your culture when you were writing. I said, I remember a Turkish girl in year 10 at Brunswick Tech who used to write the most wonderful, wonderful stories. Her name was Onur. I said, I've been reading your stories, Onur, and I noticed that all the people are called John and Mary. I said, I didn't know that they were really common Turkish names. She said, well, they're not, I'm just trying to fit in. And I said, and you write wonderful romance stories, beautiful romance stories, and yet your symbolism is always what I called skipified. And so I said, next time you want to see a boy and a girl, their love for each other was as warm as Turkish bread coming out of a wood fire. I will never forget that. And so I say to my introduction to creative writing, and it's become an enormously popular subject because people have understood how, and it is, Charles, you're so right. I look around my room here, I'm pretty certain I see some of my old students here, quite frankly. And I look at my creative writing, and there's nearly 250 doing it. There's more and more and more coming to do it because they say, even if we're going to be doctors, even if we're going to be forensic scientists, even if we're going to be vets, even if we're going to be netball coaches or whatever, they've decided that writing might be something good for them to know something about. And I said, I now want you to have a look at everybody in this room. I said, I want you to have a look around this lecture, and it's filled. And I said, and I want you to check out how many different cultures you see or you suspect you see in this room. I said, if you're going to write stories, write any stories you like. But don't, I'm going to patent this word, I don't have it anyway. I said, don't you dare skipify your writing. Don't you like me? Do it properly. And a Sri Lankan girl, young woman with 2 kids, had been brought up by a single mum and her grandmother and gone from Sri Lanka to come here. She turned out to be a beautiful, beautiful writer. And after their writing, they had to do a commentary. It's called a critique, about explaining why they chose to do this and why they chose to do that and how they chose to do this in their writing. And she said, I thought of doing something about living in Australia, but I thought that would be done by a lot of people. So she decided that she would tell us a story about living in Sri Lanka and being brought up by a single mum and a single grandma in Sri Lanka, in Colombo. And in her commentary she said, and the thing that made me write that was Michael in the lecture saying, don't you dare skipify your writing. So I have been teaching people from so many different languages and so many different cultures, and I felt, I was laughing at myself, but when Charles was saying it I thought, geez, I know nothing. I know nothing. When I was young I used to read and listen on the radio to a series called Biggles. He wrote a book, Captain W.E. Johns wrote a book about going to darkest Africa. And I never forget, Bertie went up to speak to the clerk. The clerk listened, and these were the stories that I read and read and read, and I thought that this was normal. And I hope I pronounced her name correctly. Her name is Nerdol Neon. I'll get it wrong. And Kakuma Refugee Camp it is called. And she was going to write something else, and I said, a story for God's sake that nobody else knows. And this is the most extraordinary story I have ever read, and this is the creme de la creme published in this book. It's an international standard. I don't remember how I got there, for now the beginning doesn't matter. I know it was on the shoulder of a person travelling with the masses, running away from our war-torn country. The elders ordered that we travel through the night because it was cooler, and most importantly, the darkness provided protection from the hunters. I say hunters because our status as human beings was not taken into account by those in search of our blood. We soldiered on, enduring the worst, to search for a place to settle, to fulfil our basic need to live. I sat in the evening watching the sun set on this barren land. Glowing shades of orange, pink and yellow swam across the mud hut buildings with their grass roofs. Oh, I love sitting high in the tree branches, with my legs dangling overhead as people finished their day below. Watching the women sweeping and singing, getting covered with dust as it rose, and the young children coming home from the street with water for cleaning and cooking. The men can only be reached by the songs, for they are not here taking care of their families. They are back home fighting for Uhuru. Later we shall sit around the fireplace, and the women shall entice our imagination with songs and stories from the land left far behind. This is Kakuma. Kakuma Refugee Camp, as it's officially known, was established in '92 in the northern part of Kenya. It is hot, dry and humid, barren and remote. The locals have the best of this land. Not much has changed occurred in this part of Kenya. I doubt even the government knew about these people. This was a god-forsaken land, a mixture of ignored citizens and stateless refugees fighting over scarce resources. This was indeed a land of the forsaken, forgotten and voiceless, hidden from modernity and civility. Not that a more prominent location would have done us any service. And I'll just read one more paragraph. 40 degrees. Everything in this place is just the same as the day before. A scenario that my friends describe as same shit, different day. She wrote it, I didn't. There is much to do, no cattle to herd, and no land to cultivate because it bears no fruit. This differs vastly from back home when cattle herding is the focus of daily life and central to creating stable Sudanese identities. But we have to soldier on regardless. And then I'll just read this bit here. It's talking about a song, which I won't even attempt to translate, but it's about making pancakes, and it goes something like, Ewa Dambo. As our voices echo on the sheet iron roof, the smell of boiling porridge wafts through from the kitchen. It erases the visions of aeroplanes and computers. This was our life now, simple, plain, structured. This was Kakuma. I spoke to her sometime later when she tried to write, and Mendel does not get annoyed with me telling this story because it's such a great story for everybody to hear. Christmas. That story got a high distinction, by the way. And I said, what are you writing about Father Christmas for? She says, oh, well, you know, it's something that the kids can get, and I'd like to try and write something that's kind of... This has power, beauty, poetry. This just seems like fairy floss, wafting away in the wind, meaning nothing. I said, I would love you to go and write something else that means something. And she went away and wrote something that was just as brilliant as that one. I came to understand something. I've been teaching writing it for a long time, and I've said to Charles and Elizabeth, I'd be very, very happy to be involved in the writing workshops for children. Writing heals us. It doesn't just tell us stories, it actually heals us. I've had a few problems in my life recently, and I said to my wife before I left, I said, you know what's going to be good about this afternoon? I'm going to be I've just been to a place where an Italian person and a Samoan boy had done their honours performances in art. I said, I'm here, and I said, and I'm going to come across 90% of people that as like an ant compared to... There is one thing that I do know, this is how I would like to finish. There has never been one community of human beings ever on the face of the planet Earth, not one has ever lived without story. Every single community, doesn't matter where, told their lives and healed themselves and explained things through story. We need stories like we need fresh air, food, water, shelter,